Hello everyone, my name is Amira and welcome to my digital diary. I kind of wanted to make a video introducing myself because I realized that I have not done that, and I've had a channel for almost 4 years. Yes, I did delete the videos from 4 years ago, but who's counting that? The state I live in now is my 9th state that I've ever lived in. The school I am going to right now is the 3rd high school I've been in. I've been to 3 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, and 3 high schools. Wow. When I say it out loud, it kind of surprises me every time. So today I wanted to talk about starting over and going first. As someone who has moved around so much, I've definitely had to start over a ton, and I've definitely had to go first in introducing myself to new people, introducing myself to the class, which I kind of hate doing. That is not something that they only do in movies. That is real life, and it doesn't always feel great, but yeah, that actually does happen. My parents both have been in the military. I don't really have a layout for this, but I do have bullet points. I have kind of had to build up what my mom calls my courage muscle, because like any muscle, you have to work it in order for it to actually work for you, and you have to keep doing it in order for you to reap the benefit from it. Like any other muscle, if you don't use it, it will get weaker over time. I've kind of had to learn that the hard way, especially this year. This past junior year was the hardest move I've ever had to go through. Partly because the community I moved into is so tight-knit. Everyone kind of has a set group of friends. They have a community, and I don't blame anyone for that. It's just the way it is. But it did make it a lot harder for me to insert myself into a new community and make friends, establish my name in my school. While the military has afforded me so many opportunities for personal growth, leadership roles, it really has been tough. It's not been easy. But it's not the hardest thing that anyone has ever had to go through, but it's not easy either. So this year, it was rough, my first few months going to the school. My school is huge. It has like 2,000 kids. My graduating class has 700 people. To some people that might not be big, especially in Texas. Schools are huge anyway, and Texas is one of the states that I've lived in. I've never been to a school this big. Oh my gosh, the bugs! The way I saw it when I first moved here was there were a lot of people to judge me. But now, coming out of that mindset, I see it now as a lot of opportunities for friendship and a lot of opportunities to make a difference. My first few weeks at the school, it didn't really kick in until the adrenaline of being at a new school wore off. And that, of course, like any other school, lunchtime is always the hardest time for me personally, and I'm sure a few other people feel that way. It's because lunchtime is such a big chunk of the day where people get to break off into their own separate groups. It's harder for the people who don't have groups to break off in. Me being one of those people at the beginning of the year, it sucked. There's really no way to describe it other than that. It sucked. It like tore me up inside how lonely I was. My parents, and my mom especially, they coached me out of it, and they told me that I was going to have to break out of my shell so much more than I already thought that I was in order to make friends. And because I was in sports, it was much easier to do that. But for the people who aren't in sports, it's tough. Like for people who aren't in any musical theater, any band, any extracurriculars, it is so hard to just put yourself out there. Literally what I would do, I would go up to people in the hall, introduce myself, and start up a conversation. The first few tries I did that, it was so awkward. I had no idea what I was doing at all. I'd be like, my name is Amira, what's your name? And that's just really how it started. And eventually I made friends through doing that, and it really took so much courage. Like, I don't think people understand how much courage it takes to step outside of the norm, which is to stay where you are, stay in the same spot with the same people. I don't judge anyone for that because it's easy and it's comforting. I wasn't afforded that opportunity to just stay where I was, to just stay with the same group, because I didn't have a group to stay with. Now that I know what it's like firsthand, because I've been the new kid plenty of times, but never on a level like this. In elementary school, we would go to my neighborhood playground, and there would be kids in my neighborhood who happened to go to the same school. Anyone that I met, they went to schools separate from me, sometimes in a different district. I couldn't rely on anyone that I already knew. I had 0 familiar faces. Actually, I did have 1 familiar face. I couldn't rely on that familiar face because they have their own friends, they have their own friend group, and I had to stand on my own, which it was horrible in the moment, but now that I am out of it, I see how beneficial it was for my character, I guess, and for my relation to other people, relationships to other people. Now I want to talk about the friends that I did make during this year. So the friends that I have made this year are some of the best friends that I've had my whole life. And part of the reason for that is because I was finally myself. Because I was finally myself. I seem to have cultivated this idea that people wouldn't like me the way I am after moving around so many times. And I would put up this facade, this persona, that I want people to think I am in order to make friends. And because I move around, it's so easy to do that because no one knows who I was before. So they couldn't call me out on it and be like, what are you doing? Because they don't know me. So it's so easy to change personalities. And it's easy to do that because if anyone ever criticizes you for anything you do, you're not criticizing me. You're criticizing the persona that I built for you to see so that you think that I am this person. For me to become truly myself, I had to completely shed the persona that I built. It was so polished, so coordinated, so... The persona that I had curated when I came here was way different than my actual self. And in order for me to make real, true, meaningful relationships, I had to completely let go of this facade that I'd put up. In order to do that, I had to be okay with criticism for my actual personality. And I had to be okay with being vulnerable even if people judged me for it. And that was so terrifying for me. Because I used to judge myself. So I would project that onto different people that I had just met and be like, they're gonna judge me too if they find out who I really am because I judge me for it. It was exhausting, so lonely still because I couldn't make real connections because I wasn't my real self. And it all ties back together, which is so interesting to me. Once I finally let go of that fear that I held onto for dear life, I was able to make real connections with people that I now love and people that I call some of my closest friends. Realizing that the friends that I had in my last state, they weren't always gonna be there because they live their own lives and it's completely different from my life now, what it was then. It really made me realize that I have to be myself if I want to thrive here. I have to. And once I was myself, authentically, really me, opportunities just came my way. People that I'm so close with now were just so open to having me in their friend group, in their house, in their space. People, even though I didn't want to admit it, people can realize when I was being fake. And on some level, I believe that pushed a lot of the relationships I could have had away. Why would someone want to hang out with someone else that wasn't authentically them? Someone who is lying to themselves about who they are is not going to have your back fully. I realized that because I didn't have my own back fully. So how was I going to have one of my friends' backs if I wasn't even confident in who I was? It didn't destroy, but it soured a few relationships. Once I finally realized that this is not the way that I want to live my final 2 years of high school. This is the longest I have been at a school in 6 years. Everywhere else, I've only been at a school for a year. This is my 3rd high school in 3 years, but I finally get to do it for 2 years in a row at the same school, and it's my senior year. And I realized that this is not the way I wanted to live my life under a false pretense of who I was. So, yeah, this is the introduction to my channel in short. This channel is my digital journal about my final year of high school. Let me make sure all my bullet points have been reached. Okay, what is that?